Good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. Becca, would you please call the roll?
Flournoy.
Here.
Hallie.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Thank you. Any additions, council, to this evening's agenda? If not, we'll move to our consent agenda item. We just have several small items, minutes approval from the March 25th council meeting. We have approval of payroll from April 5th of $112,561.53 and approval of total claims in the amount of $829,205.62. Any questions regarding these consent agenda items? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Gandy.
Second.
Second by Thompson. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Gandy.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes, but I need to abstain from the March 25th minutes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, council. Now we'll move on to our resolutions, action items, ordinances. And first, we have a motion to approve the proceeding with negotiating terms for issuance of debt. And to give us some background on that, we have with us this evening Travis Squires from Piper Jaffray. Travis, if you join us, please.
Okay. Great. And you should have a packet of information. So we have 10 pages of numbers, so just buckle it. No, we're not going to go through each page. Just to kind of bring you up to speed as a council, we haven't had a lot of action on this, what we call the Step 2 sewer financing. So this is the USDA loan, letter of conditions approved last August. As you're getting ready to bid now, the sequence of steps is a little bit nuanced. So we have to get an interim lender in place before you can send out for construction. The interim lender has to hold to close the financing until you get the bids in on the project. So this is kind of step one. So over the last 3 weeks, investors have had an opportunity to review a participant package that we sent out to them. We had 5 bidders submit proposals. So you have a summary of financing proposals. We had a little bit of a mixture of banks that bid fixed rate and some that bid variable tied to indexes. And so we asked the ones that didn't bid the other to bid both so that we had a nice round of comparison. So I've highlighted 2 different proposals on here, one on the variable rate side and then one on the fixed rate side. So one thing you'll note, or I should remind you that your current loan that you have right now is with CoBank. So for the sewer treatment plant project, your interim financing was with CoBank. That's a drawdown loan, just like these would be. So you're not taking any draws. You're not paying interest on the full amount of the debt until you take the project draws. So that would be the same of all of these proposals. The CoBank rate is a fixed rate. And their rate on your current debt is tied to the LIBOR, the London Interbank offering rate, plus a spread. Their proposal is also the same as they're bidding for this transaction as well. So there's a bank from Fishers, Indiana called First Internet Bank. We've closed a lot of financings with them. That name is not a joke. At first I thought, well, that's kind of a joke, right? First Internet Bank, whatever. But they are an actual institution. We've closed quite a few financings with them, with school districts in Iowa. So they've been a pretty reliable lender. They have a similar format, similar rate index tie. They do have some upfront costs that involve their bank legal counsel reviewing some of the terms of offering that will come from your counsel. So that would be an upfront fee. Right now, their total cost, assuming the draw structure that we had received from Melanie that she had put together from the various parties, total financing cost end up at $411,202 over the next 2-year period of time, which is a very nice rate structure for you guys. The fixed rates down below do cover, certainly a higher cost. And, in a lot of scenarios, we may be worried about kind of a rising interest rate environment and what that might mean for you. I'm probably less concerned today as I would have been probably 6 months ago, given a lot of the posturing of the Fed right now regarding interest rates and kind of basically we're going to be rate neutral for a while. But certainly we wanted to have some fixed rates for comparison. Ultimately, you'll note that CoBank is highlighted, but theirs is a 397. We did have something from KS State Bank out of Manhattan, Kansas at a lower rate, but they have cost involved. They have an origination fee up front, and then they also have legal counsel fees, so those upfront costs actually take their total cost of financing slightly higher than CoBank on the fixed rate side. Overall, I've assumed the normal structure, and this assumes a payoff of 6/15 of 21. The thing that I would note, based on your draw schedule, that's actually 3 extra months more than what we'd have. So if you close in April of 20, well, I got to skip ahead of here, 2021 on this project, and you're able to quickly turn around the USDA final financing, you're going to cut $100,000 of that total finance fee off. So there's a little bit of buffer built into that just based on the cash flow timing of how this might work out. We don't know. I don't think Melanie's going to commit that we're going to follow the draw structure to a T. That's kind of our best guess estimate right now. So ultimately, in the packet, I did put together the cash flows. Probably the most relevant one to go to would be page 3, which is that First Internet Bank proposal. So I just want to show you the math on theirs, just so you're aware. Their rate index is 79% of the current LIBOR 1-month rate, which is 249. So essentially, they're taking that taxable rate, backing it off to a tax-exempt rate on their loan, and then they're adding a spread of 135 basis points, or 1.35%, which takes you to 3.317. So the thing to note there is that even if rates went up, and let's say they went up 0.25%, your rate wouldn't move that much. It's only going to move at 80% of that rate movement. So even if the Fed were to raise rates. The other thing I would say on the variable rate is that if we do see a reversal of rates, you actually have a little bit of upside potential on the variable rate side. Obviously, there's a little bit of downside risk if rates go up on the variable scenario, but it's pretty common on a drawdown note of this size to be in a variable rate scenario. But it's certainly not one that you would have to move for. You could always pick the fixed rate offering. So if you were to go forward a couple more pages, which is the 6th page, so in the top right, it'll say CoBank and fixed. So you'll just see that there's no rate index tie. It's just the spread at 3.97, which would be their fixed rate. And so then you can see the calculations through there. As I note, kind of those last 4 payments under the interest expense column go away if you're able to close that loan quickly. You would not owe them the added cost in that scenario. So for tonight, as I said, we're kind of in this, interim, take one step forward, take another step on the other side, step back, and circle the wagons and finish this out. What we need tonight is some direction regarding desires to work towards finalizing a term sheet for future approval. You need this step in order to go out for bid on the project. So
do you want us to choose between the fixed and the variable tonight?
It would be helpful, but I recognize that we may want to just have a little bit of bantering back and forth on that. So I guess, is there some thoughts of any members on the council, mayor as well, on fixed versus variable rate? Besides saying which one do you recommend? You can't say that yet. So
Are there any caps on the variable?
there are. Let me check on the First Internet. They did not indicate a cap, but that may be something that we're able to negotiate with them on that. Obviously we have to give them some upside on theirs, because the way they're doing this on a drawdown is that they're not putting their capital invested right now, so they're just swapping their capital in and out each month. So they're adjusting their cost of funds. So We can probably get a cap, but it may require an increased spread. So right now they're 79% of LIBOR plus 135. To get the cap, it might cost you a little bit more. But we can certainly ask them about that. It's a reasonable request.
Travis, was this presented at all to local banks, or is
Yes.
this a little out of the reach? Okay.
Yep.
So these are the best.
Yeah,
Best
it's a pretty big,
Yeah.
it's a big lift.
Mhm.
You don't have banks with big enough asset size to take $11 million
Yep.
loan to one public entity.
And what's the rate history of the last 18 months?
Seen a pretty healthy increase. And so if you think the 30-day rates right now, we're actually dealing with an inverted yield curve. And so what that means is that short-term rates are actually higher than longer-term rates. So usually one of two things follows there, right? We either enter into a recession, or you start to see long-term rates rise. And then, the sidebar would be, might you see the Fed take some action to try to drive down those lower rates? So when you hear the Fed taking action for rates, what the Fed is changing is basically the interbank borrowing rate, the overnight Fed fund rates. So when you hear 0.25% up, that's more likely to increase or impact short-term rates than it is anything long-term. So I would say we've seen a nice run right now. The 1 month, 3 month Treasury rates are sitting at some of the highest levels they've been in the last 3 to 5 years.
But Travis, over the last year, haven't we seen those LIBOR rates, though? They've risen, but they're kind of leveling off now?
They have labeled off.
Yeah.
Yep. Just, we probably hit the December, January, we kind of hit the highest
They kind of
30-day
peaked,
rates.
yeah.
And then they're leveling off, but they're not increasing because those move more closely with what the Fed's doing.
Yeah.
So the last time we did the analysis on the plant is we took the analysis based on expected Fed fund rate increases to try to model what that would look like. Right now, over the next 12 to 18 months, there's not forecasted Fed fund rate increases. So it's kind of hard to model after the Fed fund rate increase, but certainly we can look at some more variable analysis on that. And for example, if we saw, because if we're looking at the total cost on the First Internet Bank, which is showing 411, if we got into later in this year and we saw that index move up by 25 basis points, and let's say we saw the index move at the beginning of 2020 by 25 basis points, and then we saw it next August, so 3 rate increases kind of sandwiched in the middle, that puts your total cost very close to that
Fixed.
co-bank fixed rate.
And that's where they come up with it.
Yeah, but right now they're not forecasting those
Right,
rate
yeah,
increases. Yeah. So this is, to be honest, this is a little bit of a flip of a coin. I mean, you lock in your downside potential with the fixed rate, but if you were to see rates move in the opposite direction, and let's say they moved quickly, and that was within the next 5 months, and we saw rates go down. Bear with me, I'm doing this on the fly here, so I don't want to typo and say the wrong number to you. If we saw them move down 25 basis points in, let's say, let's go August of this year, that 411 becomes 380. So that's 31,000 of upside that you would take if that rate increase went down. So that's where it's just an interesting, like I said, a little bit more of a coin flip than maybe we've had in past years on this. Last time we only had the variable rate proposals. We didn't have the fixed rate proposals coming in. So we, in this case, First Internet and CoBank bid the variable, and we went back and asked them for a fix since we had another fixed rate, because obviously it's really hard to compare them.
Thank you, Travis. Council, any remaining questions? Any preference?
Well, personally, my preference, if we had to make a decision right now, we don't. But quite frankly, I guess I'd still go with the variable. Because as Travis said, because if it gets, if they start moving too much, I think we have the option of being able to go back and change it anyway. But for right now, with what they have, I would go with the variable.
Right. As far as the way rates move, I mean, our 2-year time period it's a pretty big span.
Right.
I'm comfortable with the variable right now too, based on what I've seen through work.
Anyone feeling more towards the fixed rate scenario?
I think the variable.
Okay. So I think gives you kind of an indication. Do you want that in form of a specific motion to
The only
continue to
thing,
pursue the variable?
yeah, the only thing I'll come
opportunities?
back to is, to me, it appears obvious that First Internet Bank has a lower structure than the CoBank, but you do have a relationship with CoBank from the prior loan. I don't see any reason to award that or that cost differential. To me, it seems that the First Internet Bank is the best variable rate bid that you have, even with the added upfront cost. Now, the thing I will add on this is that both CoBank and First Internet Bank did allow anytime prepay. So if your project's running ahead of schedule, right, knock on wood, you can take that out and get that converted to long-term USDA rather quickly. One thing I will say on this is that this will be a motion to continue the negotiations of the terms.
Right.
If at any time during this period we run into any roadblocks, the good thing that we know is that it appears CoBank would be the second best on the variable rate side. So we could switch right there to variable. Now, the only question I would come back to is if it is needing to go to the second best proposal, would you want the fixed in that scenario where there's less of a difference, in this case only 33,000 versus the 70,000?
Good question.
Sorry, I didn't mean to stump her. This
No,
is like
that's-
Jeopardy tonight, right?
Yeah.
What would be the cause of the first one to fail?
What's that?
What would be the cause for this first one to fail?
If we run into any snags in negotiating terms
Just-
that the attorneys aren't a fan of.
Okay.
We have not run into issues, but we have not closed an interim USDA financing with them in Iowa. So we've done one in North Carolina.
Oh, so this would be the first experience with this bank and this particular loan?
On this particular loan structure, yes, but not with this bank in general. They've been relatively easy to work with.
And they chose to bid it.
Yeah, and asked a bunch of questions too, which didn't scare them away too bad, so it's a good sign. And that's one where I can say that we can come back on that one if we need to.
And by the same token, the First Internet Bank fixed is so close to the CoBank. You could probably negotiate between those two offerings and find something favorable also.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I have what I,
$7,500 of its fees.
yeah.
So,
Right, so it's always good if the fee is lower. That means they're paying less lawyer time to negotiate through the documents, right? So tonight, all we would need is a motion to proceed with negotiating the terms of issuance, in this case with First Internet Bank. And I think there's a healthy understanding that if there's something else, CoBank remains a viable option. While I would say that the KS State Bank is closer in proposal, I just feel it stinks to pay that much in upfront fees for that side of the bank costs. So.
Okay.
I move that we pursue that line.
Moved by Flournoy,
Second.
second by Anderson. Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Thank you for coming down, Travis. Appreciate that.
I gave you enough time to get the document that you wanted, so.
When do you think we'll hear from you again, Travis, as far as negotiations?
It will be, I'll be in touch with Aaron and Rebecca probably yet this week.
Okay.
And then from there, we'll just kind of sit tight and figure out when your bidding timeline, what dates you actually get on the calendar. Probably won't see anything formal at the council level until we get into late May, early June would be my guess.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Hey, Council, next we'll proceed to the awarding of Libertyville Road sanitary sewer project. And Steve Pedrick from French Reniker will give us an update on that.
So, yes, we've had a little bit of excitement in the last 10 minutes here, but I think we're prepared now.
All right.
We had a bid opening for this project last Thursday on the 4th of April. And as I was here at the last council meeting, if you will remember, there's two alternate bids. We received 3 bids on the project. One bid for alternate 1, which is open cut construction, and 2 bids for alternate 2, which is the trenchless construction. At this time, Drish Construction is the apparent low bidder. And I'm going to talk about a few things, and then I'm going to have to come back to Drish, so don't let me forget that, because this was part of the 5 minutes of drama here. So, looking at the bid tabs, if you open them up, if you're looking at the costs of Drish compared to our estimate, they're obviously not where we wanted them to be.
Would you read those numbers then?
Yes.
Maybe you can load it.
Okay, yes, so our estimate for alternate 2 was $760,000. Drish's bid was $889,105. And Four Seasons Excavating was the next low bid on alternate 2 of $1,063,841.67.
And that's the open cut, alternate 2 is the open cut.
This is the directional boring.
Oh, the boring.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We've done some talking with Drish and some other contractors. The primary reason for that it's higher is that it's such a deep project. The sanitary sewer is 25 feet deep in many places, which we had anticipated. We didn't anticipate enough, though. It came in higher than we thought it might. The other reason that the bids are a little bit high is it's really not a good bidding climate right now for cities. As you are aware, the airport hangar project received 0 bids because there's so much out there for bids right now. I checked, we subscribe to a bidder notification thing that we get every week that says what projects are available for bid. Public projects alone, this week there are 80 projects to bid in Iowa right now. So that's part of what we're seeing with only getting 3 bids. We had 11 plan holders on this project, but we only had 3 contractors submit bids. So.
And Stephen, again, just go over why we're not discussing 1, because that was so much higher.
Yes. The low bid on alternate 1 was higher than both of the bids on alternate 2. Just frankly, the alternate 1 bid was they submitted it in case they were the only bidder, just looking at the unit prices. It was,
Okay.
They were throwing it out there. If they got lucky, they might have been awarded.
But your bid 1 was $792,000 as compared to alternate 2, which was $760,000. So in essence, we were kind of ready to pay $792,000.
Yes, exactly.
So we should be thinking in terms of that being the estimate that we're working with. So the $889 would be $110,000 approximately difference. And there's some thoughts about how to remedy that?
Yeah, we've had some discussions with Drish already. The easiest thing, there are small things we can do and big things we can do. The small things have a smaller return, obviously. So we're kind of talking it over with Drish to kind of, with the intent that if you award tonight, we're going to try to whittle this down a little bit anyway. So I don't have any firm numbers for you now without proceeding any further.
And
do we
then
need
as
it?
far as,
I was just say, do
Yes,
we need to contemplate the drama before we?
Okay, this is the last thing. Thank you for the reminder. So Drish's bid was submitted. The bid bond was signed and it met all of the proper requirements. It was 10%, which was the requirement. All the signatures matched. However, they did not witness their signature on the bid bond. We spoke with John Morrissey and he's fine with that as long as Drish's bonding company is fine with that. So I think the next step, if you were going to award it to Drish, would be for us to contact the bonding company to make sure they're okay with that signature being missed with the submission of the bid.
But that was brought to our attention by whom?
When we opened bids, we knew it instantly.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. And Melanie, you were about, I think, to talk a little bit about
Yeah.
some
So
gap.
yeah, I was going to talk about the funding options or sources for that difference. In every budget, Sean, the wastewater department, has around $300,000 for miscellaneous system repairs. This is what we use for contract lining, point repairs, as well as emergency repairs. I believe he has pretty much all of that left for this fiscal year. Holding some of that back to get us through any emergencies between now and the end of the fiscal year will provide the difference between what we had budgeted and what this came in at. So we've been able to move some things around and feel like we can afford the project to move forward. One of the things when Stephen was talking about smaller things we can do versus larger things that we can do, as Steve mentioned, this project is very deep, and that's the issue or the reason for the cost. One of the reasons for it to be deep is to service a larger area that is currently undeveloped. The depth was selected to be able to maximize the area of development in that area. Personally, I feel that if we would shallow this, so to make it cheaper now, we would regret it as that area develops. To save $100,000 now, making it shallower is going to cost you that, maybe double that, in order to serve the same area that you saved now. So saving $100,000 now may cost you $200,000 later. So with the fact that we were able to find funds, find a way to pay for this overage, we really feel, staff, Aaron, myself, Rebecca, Sean, feel like we can move forward with this higher bid.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. Appreciate that. Council, any questions or concerns about moving forward with what's been presented in alternate 2? Okay. And John, any comments from your side about the issue with?
Yeah, let's talk about all of the options.
17%.
First off, since we didn't stay in the engineer's estimate range, that maybe we just want to throw everything out, start over, and then you don't have to worry about technical formalities. I'm not advocating that. I think the formality here isn't ours to call. It's whether Merchants Bonding is satisfied that they've got a valid bond on their table. It's signed by the president of the corporation, Drish. It's got their power of attorney papers the way they're supposed to look. It's signed by the insurance company and sealed by the insurance company, and that's as much as we want to worry about on our end. The fact that Mr. Drish didn't have an attest to his signature as president, if we back into the actual bid documents, our bid documents are signed by the president of 2 bidding corporations. They aren't either of their signatures on our bid documents attested. So attest is not the standard for anything except what the bonding company is comfortable with. And my suspicions are that Drish has bought bid bonds and performance bonds from Merchants Bonding probably for the last 30 years. So they're not going to say that's not a valid bond with his signature for his corporation on there. That's my gut. But that's what you're looking at. And if you award this, you award it subject to confirmation of the bonding company's satisfaction with its bond. I think that's a safe way to go.
Okay, I think that's a good suggestion. So I entertain a motion to approve. Yes, sure.
So, but as John said, one of our options would be to throw this all out and but what kind of time frame are we talking about from that kind of thing?
You would be looking at a month just to set up the bid again and do the public notice and the public hearing. Where you'll see here in a little bit, we're going to rebid the airport stuff in a matter of 2 weeks, which is pushing it because the only thing we're changing on the airport project is how long they have to construct it. To lower the price on this one, we would be changing a lot more. So you're looking a minimum of 2 months to get something out and go through the process of rebidding it. And as Stephen mentioned that the climate right now, I'm not sure if we're gonna get better bids waiting a couple of weeks.
Okay. And I guess that was my next
Yep.
question. You know, if there's a backlog now, and as you get into warmer weather, more than likely, we don't know, but there's probably going to be more of a backlog.
Right.
I think
I
if you were to
would
do that, I think you would extend the completion date. Right now, the completion date is, I think, Halloween, October 31st. We'd be talking about completion next year sometime if we did that.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Then I entertain a motion to approve the bid subject to the bond company confirming their backing of the project.
So moved.
Moved by Thompson,
Second.
second by Gandy. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Thompson?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The next council will move to a report on the reconstruction of our taxiways, our T-hangars. We have a public hearing for this evening, so
You're setting the public.
You're
setting
setting
a
the
public
public
hearing
hearing.
for that. So because we are going to be reconsidering all the bids, so we're setting the public hearing for Monday, April 22nd, our next meeting. So I entertain a motion to set the public hearing for that time.
So moved.
Moved by Anderson,
Second.
second by Thompson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign? Okay. All right. Next item, council, is an engineering services agreement with French Rent-A-Car. Stephen.
So this is for replacing West Monroe Avenue from South 3rd Street to South 4th Street. It's about 400 linear feet of street. It's a total replacement. And it also includes replacing a couple ADA pedestrian ramps on the sidewalks along the street. What else? What questions you have for us? This is a standard agreement.
Yeah, and the total amount of the project, of the engineering services agreement?
Yep, so the total amount is $23,800. It shows up on page 4. That includes the design plus our services during construction. And the services during construction are anticipated right now to include about 15 days, full-time days of on-site review by our firm.
Okay, thank you.
Schedule-wise, the plan is to try to have this on file in June to open bids in July. And as we were just saying, we're not going to have a completion date this year. It would be next year due to the, like I said, the bidding climate. So.
Okay, thank you. The council will entertain a motion to approve the engineering services agreement.
Move to approve.
Moved by Rasmussen,
Second.
second by Toohill. Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay, thank you, Steve. Next, council, we have a stormwater easement for approval. And Melanie, if you can tell us where this is?
This is on the Los Dios property on the east side of Neighborhood Builders and Developers. With the Court Street project, we took the storm water from the new Court Street, took it through Neighborhood Builders and Developers and on to Mr. Hickenbottom's property. This has been agreed to verbally. It's actually been in writing for a while, so we're just finishing this up, getting it recorded and taking it in front of the council. This is already constructed, but he did sign it so that we can get it recorded.
Okay, thank you very much. So I entertain a motion to approve the stormwater easement with Laosteo LLC.
So moved.
Moved by Flournoy,
Second.
second by Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes. Next, council, we have a resolution for the installation of a streetlight. And just open that.
I could do it, or Aaron. The resolution is to place a streetlight 300 feet north of the intersection of Court and Lincoln. That's approximately a city block north of the intersection. Typically, most intersections have a street light. There won't be a street light on an intersection there, so it'll be a 2-block street. The request was from neighborhood builders to place one there, since they do have some townhomes going up or getting close to finalized to provide light on the Court Street itself. The Public Safety Committee met earlier this evening and did approve that motion coming forward to the council.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve installing the street light there.
Motion by Hallie to approve the installation.
Second?
Second by Flournoy. Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay, thank you. Next, council, we have the second reading of our RAGBRAI ordinance. And again, this basically puts into place temporarily for one day regulations that hopefully will protect our community and establish some norms within the organizational efforts there.
I'd like to highlight one other point.
Sure.
Last time we talked mostly about the safety in terms of the vendors and making sure everyone is serving, that's registered and such. But if you go to page 2, I did talk to a owner of a local establishment. Was wondering why we're doing one outdoor beverage area, a beverage garden or beer garden. So the reason is that the RAGBRAI organizers make safety of the riders the first priority. And so we're going, and that's what this section 13 says, is there will be one outdoor beverage or outdoor beverage area for the event, and it'll be run by Fairfield RAGBRAI 2019. And the reason is that the way we organize it is that there are emergency shelters in the area where we have them. So we have them downtown, and by RAGBRAI's rules, we have to have enough space for them to get indoors where bad weather to come. So that's why you don't really want different venues around the community. You want them in one location where we can make sure they're safe, make sure they get access to a restroom, and make sure that they can get indoors if needed. And it seems that every year, at least one of the overnight cities, so one of the 5 or 6, has the bad weather. And we don't want to be that one. Everyone can knock on some wood for that, but it does happen. And so that's the reasoning behind that. Secondarily, this event costs a lot of money. The total budget's over $100,000 for all the expenses of renting the porta potties, renting the extra security, the entertainers, and all that. So the beverage garden is one of the largest revenue streams for the event, and because we're a nonprofit, anything we make goes back to the community. We'll do a grant program at the end of it. So really, the more you drink, the more goes back into the community. I didn't
Did I
say
just hear a
it
commercial?
Doesn't have to be on.
And our chief of police laughed at that. Really? Are you going there? Okay, so on that, appreciate the clarification. And would entertain a motion to pass the ordinance from the second to the third reading.
So moved.
Moved by Anderson.
Second.
Second by Gandy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay, thank you. Council, in my report, I have one appointment to the Beautification Commission, Jerry Moore, who will be replacing Lauren Town, who is going off the board. So I entertain a motion to approve Jerry Moore.
So moved.
Moved by Gandy.
Second.
Second by Rasmussen. Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. The council, I also wanted to ask about setting a work session for the council. We've got a 3-week window between April 22nd and May, I think, 13th, which would be our first council meeting in May, So I was looking at April 29th or May 6th here at City Hall from 5 to 7. Aaron and I have a number of projects that could use the attention of the full council to discuss.
Is this an
And-
evening meeting?
Yeah, thinking 5 to 7.
Okay.
Katie, if that would be okay. We could do 7 to 9 as we
That's
usually
fine.
do, but thinking 5 to 7 on that.
What
Is
was
there a
dates again?
better date, April 29th or May 6th?
I would push for the 29th. There's a home game on the 6th.
Okay,
Those are Mondays, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
they're both Mondays. And
So-
home games are Tom too.
okay, so Monday, the 29th, does that look good for everyone? Okay.
I'm out of town,
You're out of
Uh-oh.
town, Martha, okay. Are you here on the 6th?
April 29th, I'm
Okay.
out of town.
Okay. All right, well,
Try again.
what time is the game on the 6th?
It's a home game, so it'll be at 4:30.
Okay.
May 6th
Yeah.
is fine.
Okay, so a meeting at 7 would?
Yeah.
Would that be okay?
This says 6. Let me double check the school website. Hold on.
We're running into issues with the home game because we're using the Dexter Fields now and not the stadium.
We have
no
We have to be
lights.
done before dark.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And JV plays after varsity, so they're starting the games earlier
Okay,
to try to get them in.
Sorry.
Katie?
I'm looking. One more week.
I know it'll stay lighter longer, but I can't imagine they'd be starting it later because
No.
the JV still doesn't have time to get the game in.
Boys tennis, soccer. It says boys varsity 6 p.m.
So that wouldn't be enough time, so, okay. Martha, we tried. So we'll go with April 29th, and we'll bring Martha up to speed on everything
Okay.
ahead of time and then afterwards as well. So
So 29th at 5 here.
29th at 5 p.m. Okay. Next, we'll move to our committee reports, Public Safety and Transportation.
We just had 2 items on our agenda we met earlier tonight. First was the street installation, which we already covered. Second was a parking lot at First Presbyterian Church. It's just right over here on Washington Avenue. It's owned, the lot is owned by the church, and there was an agreement that we haven't found that was ever in writing that City Hall employees could use it in exchange for the city plowing snow out of it. So it was kind of a memorandum of understanding. But the city at some point must have negotiated to make it just a full municipal parking lot, because that's what, there's a sign that says that. The church is having some issues with people parking there long-term, and have basically decided they don't want it to be a municipal lot anymore. They still will allow City Hall employees to park there in exchange for the snow plowing. So the committee is recommending removing, it's a sign that says municipal parking, 12-hour limit. Remove that sign, and this wasn't really part of the motion, but we also asked Aaron to go ahead and get a memorandum of understanding in writing that just says City Hall employees can park there in exchange for the snow plowing, so that we have that. But the motion would be just to take the sign out, so that it's no longer advertised as a municipal lot. It never fully was, it was always a private lot, but I think that's the solution at this point. Now, if we want to say we do that after the memorandum of understanding is in place, that's fine too, but it seemed like the quickest fix was just take the sign out, and then that makes it a private lot again, officially.
Okay. So we have a recommendation from the Public Safety Committee to kind of decommission that public lot.
Yeah, remove
Yeah.
the municipal parking 12-hour limit sign. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moved by Hallie, second by Flournoy. Any other discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Ways and Means Committee.
We had a meeting tonight. We have two issues to bring up. The first one was the purchase of roughly a $390,000 vac truck through the wastewater. There would be a subsequent sale of the current vac truck that would bring the cost down to right at $300,000. That has been budgeted over the last several years, so the funds are available for that. And in that motion, by Ways and Means, it would be moved to bring that to the full council.
Okay. So Make that a motion then to approve the
Yes.
purchase.
Please.
Okay, moved by Thompson to approve the purchase of the vac truck,
Second.
second by Rasmussen. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Thompson.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
And the second item is primarily for the streets and actually for the compost pile. To use to be able to buy a $7,500 piece of equipment. It's kind of a shaker type thing to sift out. Yeah, it looks like a big flour sifter.
Yeah.
To sift out the bad stuff, so they have something good to sell. And there's a $1,500 charge to be able to get it here. So the total purchase is $9,000, for which again they have the budgeted funds for that available.
Okay. And what would you call the piece of equipment? Sifter?
Sifter.
Topsoil sifter or something like that.
A screener.
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 Okay. So motion to approve the purchase of the screener by
Yes.
Thompson,
Second.
second by Flournoy. Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign? Okay. Thank you, Tom. Next, we have a report from our code enforcement officers. Got one.
I feel like I'm beating a dead horse with this tree, but Tom, I think you're the only one that wasn't here last year. 508 West Harrison, there is an extremely large tree. Had an arborist go out and check it. Had a complaint from the neighbor. Fence was damaged. Arborist went out and did declare the tree dead and diseased, which by our code, we then give the homeowner the time frame to get it taken care of. That time frame came and went. He did not get it taken care of. I've sent him 2 certified letters, which have both been returned unopened. I did get in contact with him after the first time I talked to council, and he indicated he had somebody that was going to do that last fall. That time frame came and nothing was done. I ended up having knee surgery at that time, which took me out till December. Mark Brown is who does the tree removal for Daryl. He had projects in the Quad Cities, which he is now done with. Spring has been very wet. We're just now getting to where we can think about getting this taken care of again. I've got with Mark and Daryl, they're going to work together to get a time frame set up. I will let the homeowner know, and we will be taking the tree down.
Do you remember what the cost was going to be for that?
We don't,
We don't have it yet.
that would be Mark. It's going to be, this is a very large tree.
And that will be assessed to the homeowner?
Correct.
Okay. You don't need any action from us, Scott, just
We already
a
gave
heads
it.
up on that. Yes, yep, any additional. And that is Fifth Ward, so Tom is aware that if he gets a angry phone call, he knows the backstory.
Welcome to City Council.
All right, thank you. All right, and next we have our police report, Chief Thomas.
Yes, the police department felt you hadn't received enough numbers tonight, so we'll give you some more exciting statistics. The good news is overall crime is down. I would like to take credit for it, but I know we all know I cannot take credit, and I'm not going to take blame next year if it goes back up. So we were way down in several areas. We've kind of had discussions at the police department. Sometimes, as we've discussed in previous years, this goes in and we'll have groups of criminals, and that crime will go up. We'll address it with those. Right now, I think we're in the where we don't have those groups, or they have been addressed. So the good news is there are a lot of crimes we worry about that we're way down, or at least somewhat down. I'm definitely happy to answer any questions. I don't want to go through every number. I'm not as cool as Travis is at going through them, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Chief, would you give us, just for the audience though, could you give us just a couple of high points on the numbers?
Definitely.
A couple of different areas that were either
We
higher
always
or
look
lower.
at calls for service. I kind of had that. That is all calls. A request for the police department to assist either in criminal acts or questions. It usually generates the officer either calling or responding, so we then count it as a call for service. New statistic that our Allpoint software came up with is actually a number that's a little more accurate. It's citizens assisted. It used to be calls of service. We could just generate one. If there were 2 or 3 citizens involved in that call, it still was one person. Now we can also look at, and we release that also. But our calls of service is kind of the measuring stick. How busy have we been? Even with crime down, we're still up with calls of service, and we're above average this year at 10,573 calls for service in 2018. The average being 10,428. And last year it looks like we were at 10,441. The investigations are down. We always see that when crime is down. We're not investigating. We're not taking as many calls, conducting investigations. We also think that's why the crimes at the bottom are up from OWI, which is operating while intoxicated, the controlled substances, the drugs, the gun charges, and unfortunately looting and interference, which is resisting whatever the officer is trying to do. Those are all up. We think that's because the officers who aren't investigating so much crime then have time to go out there and be proactive. And that's good news. Taking more drunks off the street, taking more guns and drugs off the street is always a good thing. So with lower crime, some crimes definitely go up.
Theft and burglary, remarkably lower. Then that's probably where you're talking about. You get waves of a criminal group or something that is active, and then in this past year not so active.
Correct. It was down so much we double checked it to make sure.
Yeah.
We checked it with the dispatch actually logging in the calls originally, and it was very close to what we had reported. We figured it would be lower than it was actually, because that's a dispatcher. Is this actually a burglary? Trying to figure out that number. The dispatchers were actually right on. Almost everything they logged as burglary ended up, the officer said actually was investigated as a burglary. Yes, that's correct. We see it go in waves. Unfortunately, 2 or 3 criminals can commit 20 to 30 burglaries a night. Right now, we're kind of at a lull. But once again, I'm not going to guarantee it won't go back up next year.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Council, any questions on the report from the police department? Okay. Thank you for your report. I
Thank you,
entertain a
Mr.
motion
Mayor.
to accept the report from the Chief of Police.
So moved.
Moved by Gandy,
Second.
second by Toohill. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melanie, I think our final piece of business.
Because you haven't had enough fun tonight, we're going to talk about EPA.
Okay.
No.
Are they happy or are they sad?
Well, we are turning in our semi-annual report. I don't need council action on this, but because we are under an EPA compliance order for the wastewater treatment or the wastewater system, I just give this to you so that you know I'm doing my job in turning this in semi-annually. And it's also, if someone really wanted to know a lot about the wastewater system and what's all going on, this has useful information. But in the letter you will see, and we've been in contact with EPA about this, is delays in the electrical systems for the wastewater treatment plant are causing delays in intermediate dates of our EPA schedule. So that is discussed in detail in this letter, as EPA asked us to do when we corresponded with them in February. Again, we're not expecting any repercussions of this. They just, at this point, want to stay informed.
Okay, great. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Melanie and Council. That does bring us to the end of our agenda. Any other business? Now we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Toohill.
Second.
Second by Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Meeting adjourned.